net25tv.com. Watch us on our YouTube channel at Net25TV. I am Cesar Vallejos. Welcome to Open for Business. Join me discover the latest news and information in business around the world. Stay ahead of the curve from vision to action. The only solution that allows the Philippines to fully open the economy is vaccinating the employed sector. Lumagpas na nga sa mahigit 1 milyon ang kaso ng COVID-19 sa bansa. We are at war with an invisible enemy and the only weapon to win the war is the vaccine. Subalit nakakapagtaka na marami ding mga Pilipino ang ayaw mabakunahan sa gitna ng giyera sa pandemya. These and the views of the Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship and Go Negosyo founder Joey Concepcion will shed light on the problems surrounding vaccination and why he believes that vaccination will expedite the country's return to economic recovery. All these in this week's episode of Open for Business.
This portion is brought to you by Security Bank.
Ito na ang pagkakataon mong ipamalas ang natatangi mong galing sa pagkanta at pagsayaw. Kaya if you have what it takes to become the Tagisa ng Galing Part 2 Grand Winner, ipadala na ang inyong audition videos. Kung ikaw ay 18 to 65 years old, may angking galing sa pagsayaw at pagkanta. Ipadala na ang inyong audition videos sa tagisananggaling@gmail.com or contact Nikki sa 0977-651-9504 para sa singing category. Shing sa 0995-880-8004 at Nilibel sa 0995-330-4653 para naman sa dancing category. Narito naman ang guidelines sa paggawa ng inyong audition videos. You can also follow and like our Facebook page at Tagisa ng Galing and Net25 for more information. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Tagisa ng Galing and Net25. Kaya ano pang hinihintay nyo? Sali na! Ipakita ang inyong galing, manalo ng 2 million pesos at maging bahagi ng pinakamalaki at pinakamalawak na talent competition on Philippine TV and online. Tagisan ng Galing Part 2!
Open for Business is back, and with me is the Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship and Go Negosyo founder Joey Concepcion. Magandang araw po, PA Joey.
Magandang araw rin.
Sir, there's a new classifications which was declared by the Office of the President during the briefing recently. Are you expecting this, Sir Joey? And do you think that this is still on track as we open the economy?
Well, it's basically an extension for another 2 weeks, which I already expected, considering that the cases are going down, but still at a very slow pace. No? And, nakikita natin that we've already basically gone through how many weeks? A month na yata to. So just to be able to ensure that the whole lockdown really worked, I guess another 2 weeks. But of course, it comes with a lot of sacrifices. No, when you lock down that long, you really uh, affect more entrepreneurs. No, and maski yung may na are surviving, barely surviving, are really going to be more affected now. No, definitely. So but it's very difficult, no, to make that decision because one or the other. I mean, you go to livelihood, then you affect lives. Then if you go to life, you affect livelihood. So uh, I've always said to many people, we are for the last 1 year and a quarter, or slightly more than a quarter, we have been through this, and the only weapon that we've used was social distancing, wearing a face mask and shield. And that is not going to solve the pandemic, nor will it solve the economic problem. It will just buy you time to survive.
PA Joey, there's been a lot of data figures on the losses due to the lockdowns. So any specific updates po? Because syempre every time we lock it down, there are quarantines. Definitely, it will impact on the growth kasi lalo na in-expect natin as we all know po that the economy contracted by what's the rate? I think that was 9.5. So in terms of losses po, any specific losses in terms of volume po, and how do you think can we arrest this po?
Well, the official losses in the what they call the official economy. Now we have a huge underground economy here, which is really not documented. No, many of our micro and small and startup type and the official business is not really very documented. So if you can see the magnitude what TTI has reported into the billions, I mean. You can see, in a way, just doing a survey of all the entrepreneurs, you will see that many of them are struggling. And there are sectors that are spared, no? Those that are in the essential sectors. No doubt about that. Those in food, medicine, critical services, and the like. No? But yung iba, retail, yung mga restaurants. Alam mo naman, Filipino, ang dami natin restaurants dito, halos sila punong-puno din. Mga restaurants, mga retail stores, right. In the tourism alone, all of those hotels, motels, and whatever, and all of them are hurt, badly. It's not just this lockdown; it's the continuous open-close type of thing that really disrupts all the economy. And it's the solution really is not an economic solution. It's a health solution, and that's why as strategists and many entrepreneurs are strategists. They look at the business model. They find out, okay, how do you attack the enemy? So entrepreneurs are used to warfare. So in this case, if I were to look at it, what is your real solution? The real solution is the vaccine, because that is the only one that you have a chance to eradicate and temper down the infection. Social distancing, wearing a face mask will help, but it does not eliminate the enemy at all. It prevents you from infection. But then again, there is only so much you can do of that. After a while, you can see yung mga Filipino nasasawa na rin, napapagod na rin dyan. And in the end, they just go out because hindi nila kaya just to isolate themselves. And kung wala pa sila ng trabaho, anong gagawin nila? So then that's why you see the surge in infection, because people are tired of wearing face masks. They go out and they sit down with friends, they drink, ganyan, So karamihan yan nasa barangay. But that's the situation. And that's why as the private sector, where did we focus? We focused on the principal weapon in winning this war, which is the
Mhm.
vaccine. And
Mhm.
that's why sumali kami dito sa pagbili ng mga bakuna kasi alam namin yung government may limitasyon sa mga gagawin nila. So yung una in last year with AstraZeneca, the government could not buy those vaccines because
Mhm.
AstraZeneca did not have any MHRA approval yet. No? So, but the private sector, we can risk our money, we can throw it, and we can lose it because it's our own money. But at government, that's public sector money, no? So
Mhm.
that's the money of the people. So they have to be more careful,
Mhm.
and that's why we were able to buy these vaccines at a very good price because it's
Mhm.
intended for governments of different countries. No?
Mhm.
So yun ang solution namin, and that's why we're putting all our focus in this aspect. Nung una, we put our focus in testing. No? Kasi in warfare, yung kalaban natin invisible. So you have to create
Mhm.
visibility. So testing creates visibility. So those two were the areas that the private sector focused on. No? Creating visibility to testing and
Mhm.
finding the way to kill the virus is the basically your vaccine.
Mhm. Sir Joey, I think I have follow-up questions on the vaccination, but before I ask those questions, I would just like you to react on this item from the World Economic Forum, specifically from Bettina Schaller. She's the head of the Group Public Affairs at the ADECO Group. She mentioned as countries begin to emerge from the worst effects of the pandemic, a picture of those that have been successful in mitigating the labor market and economic impact is appearing. In broad terms, countries that respond more quickly with economic support and help employees stay in the work process as much as possible are showing better prospects. So it's good, Joey, that you mentioned that the private sector is really focusing on those two areas, testing and now vaccination. So, but as a country po, can you consider um, the Philippines as one of those that that's responding quickly to those two areas, economic support and helping employees stay in the work process?
Of course, I don't think we can respond as fast as those countries who produce their own vaccines, no, and who have the wealth to be able to keep providing the people with financial support, what we call ayuda. There's a limitation to all of this. We are not an American company. I mean, an USA where we are a growing economy, a fast-growing economy, but of course we have our limitations. So it's plainly as that. I mean, if you look at America today, was one of the worst performing countries in terms of health. But then they own Pfizer, they own Moderna, they own Johnson and Johnson.
Yes.
So as a country, of course, they will prioritize their citizens. I don't blame them for that. Uh, so as you have seen, when they started to roll out their vaccination program, and all of these companies that produce the vaccines had adequate supply, you can see the change in many states. Now they're starting to remove face masks. They're starting to go out and have social meet their friends, go and watch games, and
Mhm.
it's opening up. Of course, in the
Yes.
states that the infection level is still high, they don't do
Mhm.
that. But
Mhm.
you can clearly see that in all countries that roll out and have the supply and roll it out effectively, the economic issue is solved because this
Mhm.
is technically a health issue that has caused an economic problem. So you don't solve it by just throwing money, giving ayuda. I mean, that will help, no? But at the end of the day, if you keep doing that, you will bury yourself in debt, no? So the solution is really opening the economy. So the only way to do that is bring the vaccines in. That's important, which we have done, although a bit late because we don't have the muscle and the influence that other countries have. Israel has less number of people, so it's not
Yes.
very hard to do. They are very connected with the Americans, so they were able to get good vaccines. And that is important. If you have good relationship with other countries, then they will support you. I was told that India is giving America is giving the AstraZeneca vaccines to India. They should give it to us, no? But they're not. So, unfortunately, there are areas that we have to strengthen our relationship, especially with countries that have great influence, no? So, what happens in this case is we now have to progress slowly. So it's not that we're not doing our job. We are doing what we can do, but the supply is limited. The challenges the government face is that they cannot do certain things and they have to confine within the law. Unless we change the law, which will take time, that's what we have to live in. That's why the private sector came into the picture to help the government access vaccines. And the government has done a good job by being able to access more vaccines. But of course, the limitation is America. It's only now that we are getting some share of that vaccine. But even though you can see Moderna has been delayed, Pfizer is coming in, but we don't have fixed dates yet. No, they're very fluid. But yes, they're coming in. But that's when America has basically vaccinated most of their people already. No, so they're now releasing it to the other countries, and hopefully we get our share. So you can see very well that it is all related. You know, Israel is doing well, Singapore is doing well. I mean, all those countries who implemented this vaccination program are definitely going to do well.
Sir Joey, you mentioned about relationships between countries. Do you think this vaccination program of the government is also affected by our diplomatic relations? And do you think something can be done, on this diplomatic relations, especially with the countries that are producing the vaccines?
Yeah, of course, if we look at India, they're the world's largest vaccine producer, one of the biggest in the world, Serum Institute of India. And of course, America, they are the inventors of Pfizer and Moderna. They produce some of the vaccines there, but bulk of their vaccines are produced in different countries in the world. But of course, they own the vaccines. So where have we been able to successfully get vaccines from? It's basically AstraZeneca. I think Sinovac of China, a little bit from Moderna, which is coming in, but towards the third and fourth quarter. And basically, America has three vaccine makers, or four. You've got Pfizer, you've got Moderna, you've got Novavax, which produces Covovax. That's an American company, and you've got Johnson and Johnson. So there are four companies, and these are well respected, except for Novavax, which is a one product type of company, and that was purchased by another group. They're still getting into this good vaccine, which is expected to have EUA approval. So that is where we are. Now with Sinovac, of course, our good relationship with China, they have given us some vaccines, and the rest we purchased it. So, and of course, WHO has the COVAX facility for the Philippines, which is a basket of vaccines that they give to countries that are challenged. And 89 countries are recipient of this. One is the Philippines. And a bulk of that COVAX vaccine basket is AstraZeneca. No? So, but it's a mixture of many vaccines in that support program. So, yes, we're able to access these vaccines. We want it faster, but again, of course, supply challenges with India now. With rising infection, they are holding back a bit on the exports. I'm told 50% cannot be exported. So there will be some delays. And in America, hopefully now that they've already vaccinated a number of Americans, the supply will start to come out. And that's what you're going to see in the third and fourth quarter. More Moderna will be coming in.
Sir Joey, I think we heard the president in several instances talked about Filipinos, with the collaboration of our scientists and doctors, to develop our own vaccine. And I think there were some institutions who also mentioned about this. Sir Joey, is this something that where investments here in the Philippines can be developed? And in terms of timeline, if there is a possibility of such investments and R&D of vaccines here in the Philippines developed by the Philippines, what is your outlook on that scenario, Sir Joey?
Well, if you look at it, I think setting up a plant will be easier than creating a Philippine vaccine. I don't know if we have the level of expertise to reach that point. But of course, if you're able to attract the best companies, best vaccine companies to come to the Philippines to set up a plant, then we can be a hub similar to India. I mean, they have their own vaccine called, which is produced by Bharat Covaxin, no? And it's made in India. But Serum Institute of India produces Covishield of AstraZeneca, no? And they produce other vaccines. Korea, Thailand also produces AstraZeneca vaccines. So it's not necessary that the Philippines is able to develop their own vaccines. That would be great on a long-term plan, no? But setting up a plant alone, to me, would be nice, because then you have control of your supply here. Not to say that what you produce you can dictate that it will be only sold in the Philippines, but of course you will have a better relationship with the company that is producing the vaccines in your country, so that you will have access to these vaccines. So I think that's the right step, but that's not going to happen overnight. No, that's going to happen 2-3 years from now. I mean, before people get started and all of that, 2, 3, 4 years from now. No? By that time, I expect that the pandemic should be tapering off. But again, we should start to build on that, because you don't know when another problem like this will come back again. No? So we should prepare long term for that. But is that the solution now? No, that's not the solution now, because it will take time.
Correct. Speaking of the solution, Sir Joey, there is this House Bill number 9252, or the proposed COVID-19 Vaccination Program Act of 2021. Was the private sector or you have been consulted, and what are your insights on this proposed vaccination program?
Well, House Bill 9252 is basically authored by Epildio Parzaga, no? He's Congressman, 4th District. And I just asked my team to research if anyone has filed a bill really sort of mandating that, vaccination be mandated in the Philippines. In other words, everybody should take the vaccine. Of course, that is the very strong position if you would to go that direction. I don't know if there's any country in the world that has gone to that extent. No? But I would like to stress that even if we buy the vaccines and only 60% of our people will take it, because in the research that they have done with Pulse Asia, it shows that 61% we're going to take it. In other words, 40% did not want to take it. No? So if that happens, then you will not be successful. So when I look at it, and I talked to Secretary Bello one night, and I told him, Sec, we've been working with Sec for quite some time in many issues, and this, I told him, is I know that management cannot fire laborers who don't want to take the vaccine. And I agree to that at this point in time. But we have to remember that we are at war. And when your country calls you to duty, what do? If you say no, there are penalties behind that, right? You can be jailed in other countries, or you can have serious, it can affect you seriously. So we have to look at this pandemic equal to war. No? It's the war that we are not using artilleries and bombs and all of that. What's happening here is that the infection is from something that you don't see. And basically, it's what we see in the movies, in the all of these zombie. So here, rather than spirit going to you, it is the virus going to you. Parang, Walking Dead, no? Although you're not eating people, infection is happening and they're starting to get sick and die, no? So it's similar. So how do you do that? I mean, we are at war. So your only recourse is, rather than carry a gun, is to take the vaccine. That is your weapon. You protect yourself and you protect the people around you. That is a simple weapon that you have. Now, depending on the gun you choose, whether it's AstraZeneca, Moderna, or Novavax, or Pfizer, syempre, yung ibang baril dyan, magaling, mas matulin, yung 95% efficacy. If I relate it, no? Yung mahinang baril dyan, syempre, may palpak, no? Hindi yan, baka sumabo pang baril mo. So if you look at that, that's how I look at it. So now, are we going to wait for more people to die? There are two ways of dying here. Either dying because of the virus or dying because of hunger. There's only two ways. If you look at all of this, what do you call this? What are they setting up now? These community pantries all over the, it is a phenomena. What is it that reflecting? That people are having a hard time. It's now, should we blame the government for all of this? No, I don't think it's the government's fault. I think the problem here, it's we have a problem. We need to gather our resources and work as a team and focus on the solution, which is being done now. Bring the vaccines in. Now we execute. We can execute well, but if the people will not take the vaccine, it's useless. Then you lose.
On the fear of this 40% of Filipinos as a result of this survey, where do you think is this fear coming from? Bakit takot yung 40%, Sir Joey?
Well, I think one is education. Many of our people, especially those at the bottom of the pyramid, are in a way not being given enough advice, no, and in simple explanation why they have to take the bakuna. Pero ngayon nakikita ko sa sobrang taas ng infection, more and more people are getting scared. So maybe that's the way to do it, no? The more fear there is, when they start to see yung mga kamag-anak na namamatay, lahat nasa hospital na walang oxygen. So ngayon, it's trickling down, no? But meron pa rin dyan na matigas ng ulo at gusto na, bahala ng iba. Dito na ako dito sa lugar namin. So you have those types of people, no? And that's why we have launched tomorrow, we're launching Let's Go Bakuna. It's a campaign of the private sector to encourage our employees to really take the vaccine. And this is the only way that we can save both lives and livelihoods. And here, of course, we have a stake, no? Yung mga negosyo namin. Kung sirado ang economy, we have to close the business. You will have to let go of your workers, and the workers will have nothing to do. Then you create poverty because wala silang pagkain, wala silang medicina. So you will have those two problems, because then you still have your health issue because they don't want to take the vaccine, and you will have more closures because we are closing down the economy. So you don't have a good solution. So the only way, if people will still refuse, then you have to mandate. Of course, we should not get to that point. No, I mean, that should be the last resort. But you can see congressmen are starting to file it already. But maybe down the road, even the Senate will file it, which means that they see that this is a different thing. It is not my freedom. It is not like if we were taking a vaccine for pneumonia, for dengue, it's a choice because it's not a pandemic. This is a pandemic. In a pandemic situation, it is out of control already. You've tried everything and it's not working. Your last solution is the vaccine. If you're not going to use it because you want to give people the liberty to decide on their own, yes, they can refuse, because if they have a health certificate that the doctor says that they cannot, and it will affect them because they have other comorbidities, then fine, they don't, they're exempted. But if they're physically healthy, then why not? Because how do you help the country, protect the other Filipinos from dying or getting sick? And that's my point. So, yes, our president is street smart. And I believe that at that certain point in time, if we really come to that position of desperation, wherein we see that many Filipinos are 40% don't want to take it, we have a problem. But if that goes up to the 80s, 85%, even 90, that's okay. I think we will
Yes.
be able to achieve herd immunity. So we're not
Mhm.
asking for 100%. We have to see that percentage go up to, at
Mhm.
least to my mind, no less than 80%, no, to
Mhm.
achieve herd immunity. And ideally, if 90%, even better, so that you can really be sure that we can really succeed in this battle. No?
Mhm. Sir Joey, you mentioned about Let's Go Bakuna campaign. And of course, this addresses misinformation and, of course, the hesitancy of some Filipinos, as you mentioned. Are there initiatives of the private sector, of the companies, making sure that this is free, this is safe, and for the private sector po, I think there were issues also of the private sector buying their own vaccines and their the choice of the brands of the vaccines. Are there any developments on this po that can be emulated or also duplicated by the other members of the business community?
Basically, the private sector initiated the first tripartite agreement. This is the dose of hope of Conegosyo
Mm.
with AstraZeneca. No? So from that led to a tripartite agreement with Secretary Galvez, AstraZeneca, and ourselves. No? That is basically an order of 17 million doses, 17 million from the private sector and the LGU. Following that, you had the birth of Moderna, and then eventually you have Novavax. Then now you have Covaxin. So these are basically the vaccines that the private sector has a handle with the government. No? The government on its own has their own, no? Sinovac, but the private sector also, I think, brought about 500,000. That was the Filipino-Chinese Chamber.
Mhm.
But then they have now Gamaleya. They also have Novavax, and I think they're working on other vaccines out there. No, quite a number. They have Pfizer also that they're trying to bring in. So I think it's very clear that we have taken that role to really help the government. And you have platforms like the tripartite, which protects the vaccine manufacturer, the private sector, who's going to implement it, and there's now a law on indemnification. No? And of course,
Mhm.
in the case of AstraZeneca, the private sector even donated half of whatever we purchased to the government. No? The other vaccine company and the other vaccine buyers, for example, like Moderna, Novavax, Covaxin, there is no need for the private sector donation. But in our case, people are saying, were we mandated by the government? We were never mandated by the government because without the government allowing us to form this tripartite agreement, we will not have access to AstraZeneca vaccines for $5 a dose, which is very
Mhm.
low and very cheap. And that program is only for this year, 2021. So we could afford, no, what we paid for technically the price of two vaccines because we're donating one is even cheaper than what people are paying for Moderna, for Novavax, and for Covaxin. No? It's much cheaper. So we did it, and the government is pleased, and so that's moving forward. So the way this is how I view it. So tamang-tama yan. Eh. This June is the time when most of these vaccines will be coming in, and the key here is implementation, and that's why we launched the Let's Go Bakuna. That's why we are putting an awareness that we cannot accept 60% as the success rate, no, of the
Mhm.
vaccine program. No? That's failure to me. We have to
Mhm.
go beyond 80%, no,
Mhm.
to be able to say that we are successful. And the battlefield is basically in NCR. we have to win NCR, and we have to make NCR basically reach herd immunity before the end of the year. That's if we're able to have the vaccines arrive on time, implement and vaccinate our employees as fast as possible together with the LGU, and of course, get our employees wanting to be vaccinated.
Mhm.
That's a, all the things that we have to do to be successful. Then we win the war in NCR. When you win NCR, and I'm sure the generals will agree with me, that's a big victory. Then you can go
Mhm.
out and start, pushing the virus back to, being extinct.
Mhm. Tama. Sir, out of curiosity lang po, is the cost of vaccine is the cost vary from country to country? Are are vaccine makers also look at the capacity of countries to buy?
Well, if you look at the AstraZeneca price of $5, that's basically almost 230 pesos per dose. Imagine. So if you look at other brands, they're running into the 1,000, 1,500, iba-ibang presyo yan. So very clearly that AstraZeneca had a program meant for countries that are challenged. And that's why
Mhm.
AstraZeneca is one of the largest suppliers of vaccines in the world because of their program on zero profit.
Mhm.
And to them, that's not their core business, but they went to it together with Oxford University and had a commitment with Oxford to really look at this more on a philanthropic manner. No?
Mhm. Well, that's good. That's great to hear po. Now, sir, with our conversation this afternoon, you made it a point that vaccination talaga is the solution to fully open the economy. Now, my question, sir, um, is this concern naman on the pivot of entrepreneurs with the new normal. There were a lot of industries po that have been somehow killed by COVID-19, and we say that the key driver of the fourth industrial revolution is not no other than COVID-19. So as we move on, as we live in the new normal po, are business models also changing. The large corporations po we observed were also very resilient because they have embraced digital transformation. Pero yung mga maliliit na negosyo po na those who were not aware of digital marketing before the fourth industrial revolution, they were not ready with the digital transformation in the industry po, especially in the areas of MSMEs and entrepreneurship. Do you think books or education, training materials, will somehow change because new business models are developed because of this new normal that we are encountering now, Sir Joey?
Well, every corporation will always adapt, especially those that have been in different platforms, and one of them is this platform. And actually, if you look at America, the tech stocks have gone to the roof basically because of the new normal, which people work from home and use the computers to be able to, like us, like now, do an interview, do have meetings on Zoom and all of that. So Teams, Zoom, and so many other online platforms such as this have gone really up the roof, and deliveries and so many, and financial payments, and all of these GCash, Paymaya, and all of that, Zalora, Lazada. So definitely those who knew already what digital is and were partly into that greatly benefited from it, and actually enhanced their business.
That's right.
But we have to admit that in the Philippines, we are not at that level yet. actually this whole pandemic pushed more people to that level at a faster pace. In other words, if you
Mhm.
don't get into it, you will die faster. So to be able to survive, they switched their platform.
Mhm.
Now, I believe that that is good. The pandemic forced us and to move towards being cashless because, of course, you don't want to hold money because you can get infected. So all of that, no. But moving forward, what the pandemic has done to us, aside from those able to ship and good for them, but there are many still who are challenged because many of our businesses uh, are very micro. You know, micro businesses here are basically 90% or of the entire economy, 99 in fact. No? Uh, uh, and uh, and these people really their businesses are so brick and mortar. No, now there are some who are able to pivot, but many are still not able to pivot. Yes, they use Facebook, they use social media to project their products. They try to use delivery platforms, but the very micro are the ones that are severely affected because they are brick and mortar. These are people in the sari stores and all of that. The good thing is that what they're selling are essential products, from agriculture products to food to medicine. So they are able to survive in a time like this. All these little stores are able to, provided that their product is an essential product. No?
Mhm.
Of course, if you're in the tourism sector selling souvenirs, you're going to be affected. If your coffee shop is in a resort, all these resorts are shut down. I mean,
Mhm.
all the big resorts. There's no, and that inactivity has been going on for over a year now. So you can imagine how many people can last that long.
Mhm.
I know one of the biggest hotel owners today. He has maybe over 10, 12 hotels in many of the different islands. They're all challenged. They have laid off their people. Unfortunately, some of them are not leveraged, so they're able to survive. No? But imagine if you are in a financial debt and all what you created are, let's say, even a 60-40 leverage. That is high, where
Yes.
60% is borrowed, 40% is equity.
Mhm.
It's good that the government has kept interest rates low, but it depends. If you are a borrower that has a greater chance to fail, your interest rate will be much higher. Okay, that's how it works. If your rating is a good payer and they see that you will be able to survive this crisis, then your interest rates will be much lower. That's how what we call law of supply and demand in the sense, no? Or risk reward. No?
Mhm.
So the higher your risk, the higher your cost would be. You know.
Mhm.
So now the condition is the banks have to be convinced that the economy is going to move forward. If the
Mhm.
banks are not convinced that the economy is going to turn around, and why lend? Why will I lend if I already have NPL loans of 20, 25%? Why do I want to lend more money and that will go up and then eventually my own bank will fall apart? No? Many of our MFIs who are focused on Metro Manila during the earlier part of the crisis were severely hit. I know a number of them, no? And you can really see that. So there is no other way really out of this problem. And it just boils down to one simple problem. Your real weapon is the vaccine. Eh? So if you don't use that, wala rin eh. I cannot think of any other solution. How do you
Mhm.
kill this COVID-19? With what? Even if you use a bazooka, where will you aim? No? You will aim at all the people who have it, kill all of them, so wala na virus. Parang naging walking dead na tayo dito, no? So if so it's really, and that's why, in people say that Secretary Galvez is the wrong person for it. I think he's the right person. He's a military general. We're at
Mhm.
war. So his strategy is correct. Vaccine.
Mhm.
His
Mhm.
challenge is that if there's a limited supply, there's certain rules in the game that he has to play within and make it work. No? And like in
Mhm.
the private sector, I'm the boss. I create the rules. No?
Yes.
But here, he works for the country. His boss is the Filipino people and all of these senators. There's laws that make you work around that. So there's a
Mhm.
big difference.
Mhm.
So again, I believe that he's the right guy, and I hope and that's why we agreed to support him, because uh, you need a general mind, a general thinking on the plan. It's a battle plan, plain and
Mhm.
simple. And his weapon is
Mhm.
the vaccine. There's no other weapon. How can you say the weapon will be a face mask? No. What will happen there? The face mask just prevents you and prevents the other guy from getting infected, but the infection is still there. How do you
Mhm.
eradicate the infection? You kill the virus by taking the vaccine because he cannot enter your body, and likewise the other guy. So as you do that more and more and more over a herd immunity of, let's say, 80, 85%, even 90, then the enemy in you dies because he cannot go to parang, it's being transferred from you to another person. It's like
Mhm.
the science fiction movies that we watch. We're now the
Exactly.
you are now the actors in this show and in real life. No?
Oh, that's very interesting, PHOA. Now, I think we're on our final minutes. But my question, sir, is that some of the institutions already reported their projections. I think we saw data from ADB, also World Bank on the GDP growth. Some look at it at 4.5, 4.6. Sa inyo, Sir Joey, which of the figures do you think will is realistic now that we have already entered the second quarter? So what's your outlook of the Philippine economy po?
So the longer you lock down, the more damage you do to the economy. But fortunately, I've seen the lockdown. I mean, we've looked at our sales. Of course, we're in the essential sector, so it's hard to read. No? We've not done bad. We've done pretty good. But what I'm trying to say is that there's an opportunity. We have elections in 2022. We have the fourth quarter, which is the end of this year, October, November, December, which is the highest point when everybody starts to do well, sell well, no? Because
Mhm.
everybody's buying gifts, everybody's giving things, retail, food, etc.
Mhm.
Now, we have the vaccines arriving on June, and quite a number of that. So I think by doing this extension for 2 weeks of May 16, gives enough preparation for everybody, no? So that when the vaccine comes in, and this is my appeal to DOH and NITAG. NITAG is the group of doctors who advise DOH on how to handle all of these pandemic situations and what vaccines to be approved, et cetera, et cetera. And they're also helping and guiding on how private sector will adhere to the priority sectors, no? A1, A2, A3, A4. Especially we belong to the A4 economic uh, frontliners.
Mhm.
And my appeal to them is, please be flexible. Allow the private sector who bought the vaccines to vaccinate all their employees. Yes, we may siguro the manager na una and then the frontline worker nahuli kasi na-late siya. Let's not mind that because within that period, everybody will be vaccinated. It's not going to be like doing LGU where it will take time because of the number of people. But in a company, if you have 1,000 people, you will take you only 3 days to vaccinate all of them. So they should give the company the flexibility. We bought the vaccines for our employees, and some did also buy for their families. So let us implement according to the positions of these people. So hopefully they agree, and that gives us more flexibility because it's speed that's important. No? So this is where we now see how do you go to warfare. You have your bala, you have your gun. Now, how do you implement? No? And it's the implementation that is critical. How do you convince your soldiers, your employees who are your soldiers, to take the vaccine? Because when they take the vaccine, you already won half of the battle because they will now protect themselves. So that's important. So, and that's what we hope to execute from June to July, August, and hopefully we should be finished by September, especially those who have the vaccines arriving earlier. So come the fourth quarter, what has happened? If the public sees that millions of people are being vaccinated, not just 1 million, 1.5, no, millions, I'm saying 3 million, 4 million, 5 million a month. Focus on NCR. And if NCR can be finished in the month of before the end of this year, your last quarter will be a good quarter. You have elections pending there, which is going to be huge because it is the presidential election in 2022. So I'm sure people will start being more generous. No? If you want to win this election, people are going hungry. So a lot of people will be supporting the poor, for sure. Of course, you have got the economic stimulus package of the government, which is being implemented now. So to me, the last quarter could be a turnaround quarter that may lead towards a better 2022. So I believe that there will be more supply of vaccines in the year 2022. It will not be as bad as 2021. So we can now deploy faster. I'm sure we will not be able to finish the entire vaccination of our people. But by year 2022, first quarter, I'm sure that you'll be able to complete that. And now you fight for your next level of a new gun, which is the booster shot. No? Because this is not gonna end. No? You will have now to have a booster shot. Whether it's a booster shot or a third dose, that's going to be important. And that's where we have to now work on securing that this third dose will reach us. No? Whether it's called a booster or a third dose, that's going to be very important because you can lose your immunity the moment these vaccines, wane on you. So you have to have already a plan to secure your booster shots.
Wow, this has been a very insightful conversation, Sir Joey. Before we end the conversation po, if we can request you to have a message to small businesses, especially po yung mga entrepreneurs po na nahihirapan din who really want to bounce back during the pandemic.
So I'd like to maybe give more hope to our small entrepreneurs there who have been struggling through the years. Go Negosyo, together with the Department of Trade and Industry, Department of Agriculture, and TESTA, has been mentoring many of our micro and small entrepreneurs. They run into the thousands today. Go Negosyo is hitting close to 2 million followers. That's to show you the massive impact that we've created in helping our MSMEs. And I know, karamihan sa inyo talagang you are feeling the biggest challenge of your life. And we're here to help you in whatever way we can. And now, it's not only that we're helping through our mentoring program, yung mga mentors namin who are offering free services and working with DTI and DA on online mentoring programs that is very effective, especially at a time like this when people need to be consoled. When you have a problem, all you need to do is talk to a mentor to encourage you. But we have also focused our efforts to really helping solve the health problem. And don't lose hope. We are here to help you.
That's the perfect way to end this conversation. Open for Business will be back. We had the Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship and Go Negosyo founder, Sir Joey Concepcion. Stay tuned.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
This portion is brought to you by Globe My Business.
Kumanta, sumaya tayong lahat. Saya-saya.
Karamihan sa mga kilala nating artista, hindi lang pala hinahangaan sa harap ng kamera. Dahil maging sa pagninegosyo, sila rin ay bumibida.
Carbonara carbonara ala Nadia. Hanggang ngayon, bestseller yan.
Tinry ko siya. Sabi ko, gawin ko nga. Kahit na hindi ako umiinom ng kape, try ko i-business.
It's not necessarily passion for business, but it's more passion for Korean cooking and Korean food.
Samahan nyo kaming alamin ang ilang recipe at timpla ng mga celebrity na talaga namang pumapatok at kumikita.
Gusto naming turuan ang Filipino public kung ano talaga ang authentic Korean food. Ano talaga dapat ang lasa.
Yung mga stuff ko, pinagbenta ko rin sila. Naging reseller ko and distributors.
Makakapag-cater na tayo to at least 3,000 people a day.
Ako po, si Robin Padilla. At ito po ang ulat. Kaagapay sa hanap buhay.
Sa hanap buhay.
Broadcast journalist Wayne De La Fuente returns on Philippine television and radio to deliver top stories and engage with the country's policymakers, shapers, and movers. Tatalakayin ang mga pangunahing balita alas 7 ng umaga mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes live sa teleradyo ng Net25 at Radyo Aguila DCEC 1062. Kasama si Wayne De La Fuente sa Balitalakayan.
Thank you for watching Open for Business. Join us again in the next episodes of Open for Business for more insights from CEOs, thought leaders, industry experts, and SMEs promoting business development in the Philippines. See you again every Saturday and Sunday here in Open for Business, where we discuss business information, deliver the latest business news to keep you informed and open for business, and be ahead of the curve from vision to action. You're on Facebook Live on Eagle News and at Net25 TV, and you can watch this again in the video section of the Eagle News and Net25 Facebook pages and on eaglenewslive.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Net25 TV. Thank you again for watching for Open for Business. This is Cesar Vallejos. We live in interesting times.
This program is supported by Security Bank. This program is supported by Globe My Business.
Rise up every Saturday morning sa mga balita